Game one, we are going to start off with the Cardinals and the Jets. So as always, let's go to the box score, right? So the Cardinals defeat the Jets by a final score of 30-10. Cardinals improving to 3-2, and the Jets falling to 0-5. Kyler Murray did his thing. 27 of 37 passing, 380 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, one in being a rushing touchdown. He also threw an interception as well. Kenyon Drake found a way to bounce back. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about him today. 18 carries. Again, the volume is there. 60 yards on the ground and a score. Fell into the end zone towards the end of the game. Chase Edmonds ripped off a nice touchdown run. Caught 5 of 6 targets for 92 total yards. And DeAndre Hopkins continues to absolutely feast. He's seeing a 31% team target share. Hauling in 6 of 7 targets for 131 yards and a touchdown. For the Jets, there was no Sammy Darnold in this game. Joe Flacco took over because Darnold was out due to that shoulder injury. And Flacco did what you would expect a backup quarterback of his stature to do, right? 18 of 33 passing, 195 yards, and a touchdown. Le'Veon Bell, his first game back after that hamstring injury. 13 carries, 60 yards on the ground. Didn't do anything too special there. In fact, he only got 1 target. More on that in just a little bit too. And Jameson Crowder, again, I was saying this going into this game. Crowder is never going to be a guy that you feel great starting, but even though Sam Darnold was out, the fact that still remained was Jamison Crowder is the only receiving option for this team. So starting him was a no-brainer because he's just going to continue to see a high level of targets, and he's obviously going to produce with said targets. So Crowder for this game, 8 receptions on 10 targets, 116 yards, and a touchdown. The Jets, again, fall to 0-5, and the Cardinals find a way to bounce back after the little slide there. They improved to 3-2. So let's talk about it, right? We got a lot of things to talk about. There's a few game notes here that I think are really important. The big story here, though, is Kenyan Drake and Chase Edmonds. This is the thing that I was saying going into the game. It's the number one thing I was going to watch for, and just trying to get a really good understanding of what is actually taking place here with the Arizona Cardinals backfield. I said going into the week, if Kenyon Drake couldn't get it done against the Jets, I don't know when you could confidently start him. Luckily, he did fall into the end zone, and he did finish the day with 12.7 fantasy points in half-point formats, so that's fine. Obviously, it's not world-burning by any means, but it's still a fine game. And the big thing here is the volume for Kenyon Drake is still there. He's just not producing. But even, here's the thing, right? He's still not producing, but he still had multiple games this year with over 4 yards per carry. He's had a game this year with 3.8, which obviously 4 is the standard, so that is a dip below. In this game, it was 3.3, but he's still getting the opportunity. 18 carries. He is still top 5 in the NFL, in the NFL in rushing attempts. So for me, I'm still with it. I'm still with it, and maybe that's just me being blind and my love for Kenyon Drake. But even still beyond that, the snap percentage is still there. A big point of discussion going into the week was, we're really going to see what happens with Chase Edmonds if they utilize him more or less this week, if they shift more to Kenyon Drake and they try and get him going. He still saw 66% of snaps. He is still the bell cow running back for this team. The only difference still is that the receiving work isn't there. And obviously, with a guy like Kenyon Drake, who does have that in his skill set, and we saw that last year, it's one of the things that made him such a great running back. If he doesn't have that, that is going to be a major hit to his value. So Chase Edmonds comes in, scores a touchdown, only gets 3 carries. That's really important. And on one of those carries, he did break off, the long touchdown run. So that's obviously going to inflate things. But you look at Chase Edmonds' carry counts, and it's 3-3. It's 3-3-4-3. So this is still Kenyon Drake's backfield in that respect. The difference with Chase Edmonds is the receiving work. This is now back-to-back games where he has seen 6 targets, caught 5 of them in both games, and was able to find his way to the end zone in one of those off the receiving work. So I'm still going to be here on Kenyon Drake. My expectations are going to be lower, but I'm still in a place where I'm fine starting him. Obviously, you would like to see him continue to make his way into the end zone. His upcoming schedule is pretty nice with Dallas and Seattle, then a bye week coming off the bye. It's then Miami, Buffalo, Seattle again. And obviously, as I've talked about before, Buffalo's defense is more so predicated upon shutting down receivers than it is the running back. They'll let you beat you in that way. So he's got a few favorable matchups over the course of the next 5 weeks. Kenyon Drake is probably still going to be my lineup. Again, I am a Kenyan Drake guy, and so this might just me going down with the ship. But I understand why you want to get off him. I'm just not ready to do it yet. He was able to get into the end zone, like I said. If he wasn't able to get it done versus the Jets, then I'd be probably completely off. But he did. He looked fine. I'm still gonna stay afloat, stay on board. But I'm going to lower my expectations just a little bit. DeAndre Hopkins, holy shit. The question going into this year was, what level of target share is he going to get? Over the course of his career in Houston, he was consistently at 25, 26, 27%. And where he fell in line with this going over to the Cardinals with obviously Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald and Andy Isabella. They just had a lot of pieces there, so we weren't sure what this would look like. Oh yeah, this is DeAndre Hopkins' team. They took everything he was in Houston and just threw it into Arizona. He looks really, really good. He's been consistently producing at a high level still. And if you have DeAndre Hopkins, you got to be feeling really good about taking that gamble that you did in the draft, because there was a lot of concerns about what his value would actually be this season on a new team in a wacky offseason. So to see him thrive and be successful is pretty cool. Moving over to the Jets, I'm not going to spend any time talking about Joe Flacco. I honestly don't really care. But I will say this in regards to him, and this more so ties to Le'Veon Bell than anything else. I was going through Le'Veon Bell's game log from last year because he's a guy who I'm actually really interested in trying to acquire at this current point in time, and the numbers were great. If you look at Le'Veon Bell's game logs, yes, there were a few dud games as well, but in half-point formats, he was consistently putting up, let me pull this up one more time. In half-point formats, he was consistently putting up anywhere between 11 and 16 fantasy points per week. He was really solid, really consistent in that way. Definitely not a running back one, but he is a very great and very secure running back too. So he is a guy who I've been looking into trying to acquire in multiple leagues. But he actually did decline his media availability after the game, and the speculation is because of the fact that, one, they got killed, and obviously the Jets being 0-5, obviously there's going to be some issues there, especially surrounding the head coach, Adam Gase. But number two, and more importantly, he only saw one target in this game, in a game where they were trailing pretty big throughout the majority of it. You look at his stuff from last year, he was consistently seeing anywhere between 5 to 10 targets a game. And just to see that receiving work just magically disappear, and like I said, maybe that is a Joe Flacco thing more than anything else. I have to actually go back through the numbers and look to see what Flacco's history is checking down to running backs. But regardless, I think Sam Darnold is going to be back, if not this week, then next. And so those numbers for Le'Veon Bell's receiving work should go up yet again. I think this is honestly just a one-game fluke. 13 carries for 60 yards. Fine with it. Looked pretty good in that respect. I'm all in and trying to acquire Le'Veon Bell. He's a guy who I think you can still get pretty cheap in your leagues. And then finally, Jameson Crowder. Again, just start him every week. He is I talked about this going into the year. Jameson Crowder is the safest PPR wide receiver in probably all of football, at least outside. It's right as of right now, he is wide receiver 22 in PPR formats. So I guess what I mean by that is, because obviously, Michael Thomas is super safe, or Keenan Allen, right? But anybody outside of the top 12, Jamison Crowder is the safest PPR option in fantasy football. It's been like this for years, especially with his past few seasons with the Jets. It's been this way. And he was a guy who I said you need to be gunning for in your drafts. And again, 10 you just go through the targets, right? And yes, he did miss a few games with a hamstring injury, but just through the first 3 games that he's actually played, 13 targets, 10 targets, 10 targets. He's just an absolute monster. And especially because of the state of this Jets wide receiving core, he is going to be the focal point and the feature point of this offense.